Fruit for Thought, Recovering the Original Fruit/Fruits of the Spirit and Harvesting It/Them Today. Written by Art Edwards. Copyright 2022. This presentation and recording were done by Casey Evans with permission from the author. Author's note. Some names and locations in the author's personal stories have been changed. These events happen pretty much as described, at least in my memory. Annie and the Yachtsman. Please note that the two people pictured in the following slides are not the actual people in the story that follows, or even the same people in every picture, but they are all reasonable facsimiles. Let's look at the fruit of the Spirit Paul called Praotes. It's usually translated as gentleness, but it has very little to do with being meek, placid, or milk toast. True gentleness can only come from someone with great power. I witnessed a living demonstration of gentleness on one of those rare days when I went to a gym to pretend to exercise while shooting baskets. A young couple on a nearby court treated me to an exhibition of arrogance and gentleness. The protagonist sauntered into the gym as if to the sounds of Carly Simon's "You're So Vain." It was as if he were walking onto a yacht instead of getting ready to play at basketball by shooting at a slightly bent hoop and its sadly askew net. Let's call him the Yachtsman. This faux celebrity was not dressed simply. Rather, he wore basketball's version of haute couture. His kicks, I'm told this is slang for sneakers, were not just off-the-shelf Air Jordans, but signed by the greatest of all time himself, aka the GOAT. Merino wool socks lapped over the finest spandex designer leggings that disappeared under his genuine NBA shorts. The shorts came down below his knees. His jersey was custom made and, in case you couldn't tell who he was just by looking, was emblazoned with a fluorescent vermilion #1 underneath his name. Ready for post-apocalyptic play in the Thunderdome with Mad Max himself, he protected his sensitive body parts with knee pads, elbow protectors, and wrist wraps. He had more body armor than Sir Lancelot. He had taken great care to crown himself with a crypt-like do-rag held in place by a headband substantial enough to staunch spring floods along the Amazon River. As they say, when they want to end a sentence with a preposition, he was clearly a legend in his own mind and a force to be reckoned with. His first stop was the ball rack. Picking the right ball was not a trivial exercise. He threw them up one by one to identify the wobblers. He carefully spun those that were wobble-free in the vicinity of his index finger. He was looking for the slightest warp, and after passing all inspections, the lucky winner accompanied him to the basket. His companion came onto the court from the women's locker room slightly after he had made his grand entrance. Clearly, she had not dressed to impress. A pair of worn Keds, baggy shorts, and a sweatshirt were all she brought to the game. She had no jewelry, no headband, no protective gear, and no custom-printed jersey proclaiming her status. In short, she had failed to accessorize. After finding a loose ball erratically meandering around on the floor, she joined the Yachtsman and began shooting. Let's call her Annie. Their games were as different as their ensembles. The Yachtsman engaged in an elaborate warm-up routine before each. He bounced layups off the backboard, followed by 5-footers in the lane that clanked off the front of the rim, and topped off his exhibition with errant three-pointers from around the world. Unfortunately, the launching pad for his shots didn't make any difference in his accuracy. He regularly missed 4 out of 5. It didn't seem to matter where Annie shot from. 2 out of 3, swish, through the net. When his warm-ups were done, the yachtsman told his friend she wasn't ready to shoot from the field, but needed considerable work on her free throws. He volunteered to instruct her. Standing at the free throw line, he explained every move. He was even better at mansplaining than basketball. First, there was the ritual, an elaborate routine of bounces with either hand and pantomimes in the direction of the basket. Like many churches, he knew the ritual well, but had forgotten the reason. The yachtsman put Marcel Marceau to shame. As explained to his companion, this was necessary to center the mind. The Buddha's meditation skills paled in comparison to the yachtsman's. Only after much preparation did the shooting begin. The net and rim were usually safe from the yachtsman's shots. Sometimes he missed the backboard as well. After going 2 for 10, he declared Annie ready to shoot baskets. She stood at the line and tossed the ball up. Swish. He told her she was lucky when it went in, and she had to concentrate on tucking her elbow. Annie shot again. Swish. It was explained to her that her follow-through was wrong. Another shot. Swish. Sadly, she learned the ball had gone through the wrong part of the basket. After making 8 in a row, she missed. The yachtsman pounced on the rebound, told her she needed more practice before playing, and suggested they go to the juice bar for a latte. Annie just smiled. She exuded the fruit of the Spirit Paul called Praotes. In English translations, we frequently mistake meekness for gentleness. Praotes, as Paul understood it, provides an entirely different take on gentleness. It's used to describe a tamed elephant, not a mouse. This kind of gentleness can only be wielded by someone who has power. A person carrying the spiritual fruit of Praotes refuses to use power to hurt others. In addition, a person with this kind of gentleness is always teachable. No matter how much power they have, they are not arrogant. Annie demonstrated gentleness. She could have used her skill to put the yachtsman in his place, but she didn't. Instead, Annie listened to what he had to say when she could have mocked him. She was gentleness in action. I don't know whether the yachtsman learned anything that day, but I did. A note from the author. Thank you for listening and viewing the Gentleness Praotes chapter of Fruit for Thought. If you enjoyed today's clip, you can purchase the book by putting Art Edwards' Fruit for Thought into the search bar on Google, Amazon.com, store.bookbaby.com, or readersfavorite.com. To see clips for the rest of the book, go to the YouTube channel, Casey Evans 9605. Grace and Peace, Art Edwards. Scripture. To speak evil of no man, to be no brawlers, but gentle, showing all meekness unto all men. Titus 3:2, King James Version.